was in my 30s. And a guy said, "What are you reading?" And I said, "Oh, John Maxwell, the Bible." So, "Will you read any novels? You mean like fiction?" He's like, "Yeah."
I don't have time for that.
"I don't have time for that. I'm an important person. I've got things to do, people to lead." No. And he was unimpressed. He said, "Well, if you want to be a better preacher, you need to be a better storyteller.
Ooh.
And if you want to be a better storyteller, you better read stories." Our first ministry role was doing campus ministry, and we're only going to get these students for 4 years. Let's write up a leadership council, train them to be small group leaders. Let's meet with them one-on-one every week. Let's give them the tools they need to lead a group of 4 or 5, and let's turn them loose and see if we can light the world on fire.
We rode together in a vehicle to Brownwood, Texas a long time ago. And I'm pretty sure I vomited my heart out on the way. Pastor Ed, welcome to the podcast.
My friend, thank you.
Yes,
thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for making the time.
I feel honored.
Probably the busiest man on the planet. And that is real talk.
Yeah.
My question for you, because we're going to get right into it today, is if I gave you $5, this is not a math question. If I gave you $5 singular and you had 4 buckets to put them in, and those buckets are, number 1, implementation, meaning like a skill. Okay. You're a skilled worker, you're a mechanic, you're a videographer, those types of things. Number 2, second bucket is unification. Okay. So you're a manager. You manage people. You get to you're a sales manager. You're all those types of positions. You're a shift lead. Maybe I should say barista for you. So you're either a barista with the first one. You're a shift manager or a barista. Number 3, communication. Third bucket would be communication. You're a speaker. You're an orator. That kind of a thing. You lead people with words. Number 4 would be ideation. That's the 4th bucket. The idea is the revelation that comes to your mind. You have 5 singular dollar bills. You can put them in any bucket that you want. Oh, wow. How would you divide up 5 buckets?
So I'm going to invest, and wow. Man, where do you come up with questions like this? Wow.
I said it's not a math test, but I am so curious to know what your What's your response?
Because I want to fund them all, but that means one of them's got to have more, right?
You got 5.
Yeah. But I think that front end person, just the barista, we're not funding that at all, right? Slowest level.
Okay.
It's either there or it's not, And my last meal that I purchased, I want to tell the person that's what'd you say, the manager of, what would you call that title, that bucket?
Shift manager.
We're putting 2 in that bucket.
Unification.
We're putting 2 in unification. $2 right away, right there.
$2.
I want to call up that person and say, "You have an employee named Abby. I'll come back here even if the food's bad, because Abby is frontline doing great." And you might say, "Well, why didn't you put any dollars in that bucket?"
What about Abby?
Abby's either got it or she doesn't. It's just there. You can't buy that. You can't make that. Now, you're going to reward her handsomely, but as far as development, she's either on or off. It's there,
What's in it for Abby? Abby's going to immediately be the shift manager?
No. Abby's going to shine. You found Abby. Congratulations, manager. You got $2 in your bucket. You got to have $2 in ideation, right? Because, man, you got to keep on thinking outside the box. You got to keep on imagining how it could be. How can we get further and further away? Well, we've always done it this way. How do we have that in our rearview mirror and reach for the next? And then, man, I'm always going to be partial to leadership. I've only got $1 left. That's all I got left.
So you've done. So there is implementation. You put no money in there.
Because
there's unification. You put $2.
$2 there. $2
communication. You put no dollars in there.
Well, I got $1 left.
And you put $2 in
ideation. So
I'll
put $1. So I'll put my final $1 in communication.
Your final dollar goes to communication.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. I think I don't know that I would come down exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
But that is so. What the people may not know about you is you have given your life to leadership.
Yeah.
You have always either been placed in a position of leadership or been a student of leadership. You have a thing or two to say. Dare I say an expert? Well, what would you call that? What would you call a doctorate in education with an emphasis on leadership? I would call that an expert. You don't have to say it, but I would call it.
Practitioner, maybe. Yeah, I'm practicing.
Studying
Yeah.
mastery.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So tell us about that journey. What started you down the path of, or have you just always been thrust into it? Or?
Yeah. No, I think I learned early on to value strong leadership.
Oh, because you chose to put $2 down in the manager, in the unification aspect.
Yeah, gotta have it. And I think early on, when I was a kiddo, we had man, is it gonna maybe sound like every Texas boy had a new coach come to town, and I'm in junior high, and we can't wait to get to high school to play for Coach Pison, And the summer before my freshman year, hey, we're gonna meet with all the parents. We're in the auditorium. I sat towards the back because I'm kind of scared. Pison's up at the front of the stage. He seems larger than life. And the first things he said was, if you want to be a great leader, you got to put great people around you. Let me introduce you to my staff. I'm attempting to be a great leader, and in doing so, I put great people around me. I remember that. I got chill bumps right now. I remember that because it was yesterday. And man, I mean, he was that kind of leader long before you could tag anybody in Stephenville as being that kind of leader. This is back in the 80s, right? And
this is Texas.
Yeah, this is Texas, right? And I think that started something with me. And then, our first ministry role was doing campus ministry. And we would do, hey, we're only going to get these students for 4 years. Let's write up a leadership council. Let's train them to be small group leaders. Let's meet with them one-on-one every week. Let's give them the tools they need to lead a group of 4 or 5. And let's turn them loose and see if we can light the world on fire, And so that started the journey. So here I am, a guy with a degree in hydrology. And
I'm going to stop you on that.
What? Leadership. There I am, Sweeney, Texas. Dr. Mrs. Diane Vermillion comes back from a high school teachers science teachers conference. Hey, Dittfurth, Tarleton was representing a hydrology program. This sounds like you. It sounds like something you'd be really interested in. I think you should give it a look. I looked her up years ago and thanked her.
Whoa.
She saw something in me that, hey, you like rivers, streams, lakes. This is about water resources. And next thing I know, I'm driving to Stephenville, America from the Gulf Coast to check out this hydrology program.
Whoa. Okay, so I was about to say, what a shot from a teacher, which it is. What a shot from a teacher to recognize potential and identity in a student and go, hey, you have this, you're going to be interested in that.
She spoke it over me.
I was reading in it, and maybe why it is in your bio, but the bio on the church website says basically anything to do with the water or something to that effect. Like he loves the water.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, you grew up on the water.
Yeah.
Everything around the water. Yeah. Amazing. So you had that person, that leadership come into your life.
Absolutely.
Call it out.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the hydrology rabbit trail.
Right on. And so in all that, mystical, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, began to have a sense of a call on my life that's going to be more than saving the water resources of Texas, which is still an issue. We can talk about that all day long.
Actually, that may be podcast too.
Okay, we got to do that. But so I started pursuing those credentials and feeling that kind of a call, and thought, well, it's going to be students from now on, and then the local church had a need, and we felt the nudge to go step into that. Well, right off the bat, felt like, man, 2 priorities need to be discipling people, and then raising up men that'll take responsibility.
Now, why men?
So, oh man,
why not women?
Yeah. Where I serve, we're all about raising up strong women, and we talk about it a lot. And I've got anybody who knows my wife knows I'm 35 years at the hip with a strong woman.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, being married to a strong woman myself.
There you go.
Recognizes
Yeah, we should commiserate.
Yes.
And then raise a daughter the same way. But if you're going to have a strong woman in your life, you better doggone be a good leader.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, it's not going to go well, right? And so felt like strong men would make strong marriages that would in turn make strong families. And so, and for some reason, at least in our camp, women come to it more naturally. Oh, I need to grow. I need to get stronger. And they're just like sick 'em.
Yeah.
Where guys are more like, ho hum, like, no, we need to be in your face saying, you need to grow. You need to be different 6 days from now, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now than you are now. And I think sometimes as men, we get a little complacent.
Yes.
More so than women.
That is fascinating. That's been the track record that I've seen as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's motivating the men. That's not where I thought you were going to go with that. Interesting. Because you win the man, you win the family type of a thing. You win the heart of the man. That's kind of what I've been kicking around the last couple of years. But what is true, evident, rises to the top, if you will.
Yeah.
You have systems that come naturally to you. Have you noticed that?
I don't think so, because I don't know that I think in systems as strongly as I should.
Well, I would disagree, because you said I went to the young men, or the university, and immediately we started discipling, and we did do, and you laid out the track. That's what we did, and we were going to change the world.
Right.
And then when we're going to the home, we're going to go do.
Right. I guess that is a duplicatable system.
And change the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a part of your strength, but I don't know if you know this about yourself, but you are recognized in our community as probably the chief orator. You are the head stage, but you can't receive it yourself, but I'm going to say it. You're the guy. If we have somebody coming, if there's a dignitary, if there is a celebrity, have you noticed you find yourself at the table because we go, hey, here's Pastor Ed.
Oh, wow.
It's because first of all, you carry an anointing, from the Lord for those things, keys to unlock relationships. But you have a way of saying things that communicates clearly. And I think that is something that is invaluable. Everybody, communication is high up there on the list. That's why I was in the 4 core, abilities.
I put $2 in that bucket.
You put one.
Oh, no.
You put
Can I have some more dollars?
No, sir. What's funny to me is that was kind of a shock, because you are such an effective communicator.
Wow.
And I thought, well, surely the man's probably going to triple down on
right.
communication.
Yeah.
But instead, the dollars went elsewhere. I think it's because it comes so clear, perhaps naturally.
Gotcha.
But that could be a false assumption. So if I could, I'd like to ask, what do you think? If someone were to say that you're an effective communicator, what does your process look like or do you value communication at the same level? Do you think you're of yourself as an effective communicator?
Wow. I value it, and so I really work at it.
Okay.
I really work at it.
What does that look like?
Oh,
What
man.
does it mean to work at it?
It means to think about how the other person sees it. So it's also going to expose my weakness, right? So sometimes my place that I'm the least good communicator is with my daughter and with my wife. And I'll assume that I've explained something, because we're one, right? My daughter shares my DNA. My wife and I, we are one in covenant. I shouldn't have to explain you should be able to read my mind, right? Any good counselor say that's not how that works at all, right? Or I'll think about it so much that I'll just assume, there's that terrible word, that I've spoken of it. And I'm like, hey, you ready to go? You haven't mentioned anything. You're like, yeah, 7:00, we got to be there. And I'm terrible like that. Where I'm good at is when I really think about, okay, I want to put myself in their shoes. What are their needs? And how can I present this in a way that they can get a hold of it? Whether that's a rodeo team at Tarleton. Never rodeoed in my life. I had a guy show me one time why I shouldn't, from the back of a horse. That was an education. And or to an athlete, putting myself and look through their lens, and then from that standpoint, try then to communicate. I think when I was a young man, I thought about me. I'm going to stand in front of this group of crowd. What am I going to say? How do they perceive me? Do they think I'm funny? Do they think I'm smart? Do I think I'm prepared? And I think as an old man, I look and say, okay, I want to look through their lens. What are their needs? What are they needing to grasp? What how can I put it on the shelf that's just right at their level, and I don't mean that from a dumbing down or up, I just mean like relatability.
I would not consider myself an effective communicator. Do I communicate to get the job done? But I would say in my generation, we struggle with a thing called word salad. There's a lot of stuff coming out, but not a whole lot of clarity from time to time. How important would you say it is for a business owner or a pastor or maybe an entrepreneur, a Christian entrepreneur, to really hone in that communication thing? And how would you do that?
Yeah, I think I love that you asked this, because today I was thinking about how simple it really can be. We're not complicated beings. You think of a host, and somebody walks through the door to their business. They're able to ascertain right off the bat, hey, the plates or the logo on the back sticker shows they came in from out of town. Hey, welcome. Hey, by the way, if you need a comfort break, our facilities are right over here. We got some cold water for you right over here. Let us know how we can help you. And when you're ready, we'll communicate how we can meet your needs. You're not going to sell anything until they have a chance to go to the bathroom first. Come on.
So
if the dude's dancing on one foot, I mean, he could care less what you have behind the shelf.
Right.
It's just not there. And so meeting needs first,
Okay.
Before you try to communicate, connecting them to, if you can't meet that need, connecting them to somebody else who can. I think it's something that the Lord has given me. I love being a connector.
Yeah.
And if I meet
You
two people,
excel at this.
it just comes. That part is natural as breathing.
I can see that in you. We'll be out, and as soon as somebody faces a problem, somebody.
I know
you got a guy for that.
Or I've bow hunted twice, but if I meet a bow hunter, right, I'm like, oh, well, you need to know Chance, because the dude
is a bow hunter. He's a great bow hunter,
and he gives his arrows names. When he pulls one out, like, oh, this is George. George shoots true. I mean, and I want to connect those two people together. If I meet ladies and there's a woman who's a mom and a realtor, like, you know what? So-and-so, she's a mom and a realtor. You two should connect. Yeah. I connect people all the time just for the joy of them having somebody else who can identify with who they are and what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I get joy out of that.
That is something that I love to watch every time you do it.
Wow.
Every time you do it. So you, in this entrepreneurial business space, you're not just a pastor. You're not just a professor who teaches on leadership and ethics and all the things that go with it. You've run businesses pretty much your whole life. You've had what we would call not a side hustle. There'd be a side hustle these days, but you've been bivocational pretty much your whole career. Is that
right.
Correct?
That's true. And that did not come naturally. Mom was a LVN, a licensed vocational nurse. Dad was a butcher first, and then became a pipe fitter at Dow Chemical. So typical, what people call a 9-to-5. They worked much more rigorous hours than that. But, you clock in, clock out.
Right.
And that was what was modeled to me. Strong work ethic, get the job done, but not this entrepreneurial spirit. That was something I had to learn. Had an uncle that I spent summers with, saw high risk comes high reward, or not,
Okay.
And there's a certain excitement that comes with that. Like, man, this thing could fail. And then when it doesn't, it's like, yeah. I mean, there's an adrenaline kick on that. And so, and then probably the biggest start for me, got to brag on my bride. She was expecting our first, and she was about 5 or 6 months along in the pregnancy. And I had been really praying up, boy, now is the time. Can you imagine that conversation? Hey, baby, I want to quit my job with the state of Texas that has guaranteed benefits and paid vacation, and I want to hang a shingle.
If she had nothing to say, I'd be surprised.
And she said, I'm behind you, heart and soul.
Oh, come on.
I told her, I said, I want to be 60 someday and saying, what if? And so I'll soon be 3 years away from 60.
Are you watching this, Jesse?
I'll soon be 3 years away from 60, and I don't have to say what if, because this bride believed in me more than I believed in myself. You talking about sick 'em. You talking about light the fuse. Don't get me wrong. I hit my knees every morning. God, if you don't help me,
Yeah.
this is going to go bad, And so, yeah, that was exciting time.
Did it go bad?
No, it did not go bad. It went good, and I grew so much as a person, and I grew in this concept that some of the best disciples of Christ are small business owners and athletes. Because you think about it, their productivity is tied to getting help from the divine. Lord, you've given me this modicum of a gifting.
Right.
Help me steward it well so that I can be successful. And I can't do it without you. And in some ways, I've come full circle to that person that I highly value. I was talking about being in a difficult spot and just a hard time. And they relayed to me, a leader taught them a 5-word prayer. Today, I need you, Lord.
Ooh.
And for the past 45 days, the first thing I utter every morning, today, I need you, Lord. You think about that, athlete, no matter what level. I've talked to professional rodeoers. I've had rodeoers call me up. Hey, I qualified for the American. Saturday, I wrote for $1 million. Will you pray for me? You talking about stretch your faith,
right?
But that individual is saying, I want God to help me be at my best. If we could capture that, we being normal people, right? If we could capture that every day in our lives, saying, today, I need you, Lord. Would you help me be at my best? Well, we all get the slow nod for the athlete competing for $1 million. Like, oh, yeah. But what about a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Today, I need you, Lord.
Today.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's big. That's big.
That's everything. That actually might be the nugget. I felt like during this podcast, I was supposed to ask you about wisdom. And that might have been the wisdom that we needed. I do put it before you because I did feel like the Lord wanted me to ask you specifically about wisdom. So if you have a word that my audience could glean from, in addition to that, you go for it. But I think that might have been
I think it dovetails in nicely. And what it is just, I think, confidence. When it comes to leadership, confidence is probably so important, right?
Why is that?
Because if you walk in and your body language says, I don't know what I am doing and I'm lost. No, even if you have the right answers and even if you have the track record to prove that you can take them across the goal line, they're not going to follow you.
You do realize you're upsetting the fruit basket of every millennial and Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Heavy embrace of authentic, I feel like I'm not enough. Say they're having imposter syndrome. I don't know that I'm supposed to be speaking to this. They voice that first thing.
And so the second half of what I have to say, I think maybe fits the puzzle.
Okay.
So confidence, 100%. Got to have it. Got to look the part, right? You look good. You lead well. All those kind of things. That not a swagger of cocky.
I think this is Texas. A little bit of the swagger,
but a stride of confidence.
Okay.
Does that fit?
Yes.
Not a swagger of cocky, but a stride of confidence.
Yes, sir.
Right? Body language, how you carry yourself, and just the Christy Mays when she was coaching.
Ooh.
From the sideline. No, you can.
That is General Mays to me.
Point guards coming down the court. No, you can. Slap hitter in softball, stepping in the box. No, she's talking about in between your ears.
Yes.
Know that you can.
Yes.
And so I would say that confidence. Now, the other half of that piece that maybe millennials, Gen Z can identify with is then on your knees. Lord, if you don't go with me, I'm going to make a mess of this. Today, I need you, Lord. And because what happens is if you walk in that confidence and you have a modicum of success and then you let go of his hand, it may not be today or next week, but you can count on it. You're going to stumble and you're going to skin your nose so bad and make such a mess of things because you failed to remember it's his gift you're stewarding. Whether you're that athlete or that small business owner, you're stewarding a gift that he gave you or a passion he gave you. So you have to have that confidence, but you have to maintain, like, Lord, if you don't help me, I can't do this. And so it's kind of it's a tension that you get used to both. I think there's a sweet spot in there.
You're going to have to forgive me. I just got caught up in that whole communication nugget.
I only got $1 in that bucket.
Whoa, man, you are undervaluing that bucket. There's I say there's a man named Myron Golden. He's fairly unknown, former pastor. I say former. He's always speaking around, but he's really jumped into the business world, and teaching from a faith perspective.
Okay.
And it's been really cool. Now, he's the one who's kind of defined the whole, implementation, unification, the communication ideation. And he draws a line. He says, down here in implementation and unification, you get by. You do what you do. But in communication and ideation is where you're firing on all of those God-given. Not that they don't exist in those other tiers. You can be a busser at a table. You can bus a good table, make sure it's cleaned off, make sure it's ready to rock and roll. And you can communicate to the staff and let everything. Those elements are involved, but those top tier elements, those are where that divine comes in, where revelation comes, and then you communicate to this, this realm what the Lord might want to do in your world, where you communicate that gift. And I just feel like just a minute ago was a part of watching that gift that He's placed inside of you.
Wow.
It just every now and again being a recipient, going, man, that's pretty cool what God's done.
Thank you, brother.
Well, if you could, so for somebody who's struggling, maybe they're not an effective communicator. Maybe they put all of their dollars in implementing. They developed a skill, and now they want to develop some leadership skills, and they want to develop some communication skills and grow in some other areas.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? What would you said keep that tension, stay humble, go before the Lord. What are some practical steps that they might put into place for maybe a young pastor, a young entrepreneur, somebody starting a YouTube podcast or something? What might you say to them?
I'd run after confidence. I think I would place consistency.
Okay.
To be consistent makes whoever is receiving your message feel safe.
Explain that. Unpack that just a little bit.
So if you bring me on here and my hair's on fire and I just lost my mind, it's going to kind of blow you back a little bit. Like, this is not what I was expecting to get when I invited Dittfurth onto my podcast. If I am a minister and I take the holy desk and I began to pronounce God differently than I do at the coffee shop, and I began to speak in a staccato that maybe is reserved for an evangelist from Oral Roberts' day, and all of a sudden you're looking at me like, who are you? I've not been consistent with my character, and my message is not going to be received. But if I am consistent on who I am, and I keep on showing up, and I keep on being me, even if I'm lacking, they're going to at least know that I'm genuine, authentic, that they are getting what's truth. And they might even say, God love him. He's going to get better if we just stick with him, but that consistency is going to make them feel safe. Because now there's no question about, am I genuine? Am I authentic? That's there.
I think so.
Yeah. And then I think along with that, I would quickly add after confidence, consistency, I would say that preparedness and your audience is going to be people who already have their craft. They already have the thing that they're good at.
Yes.
But I think the communication falls apart sometimes at that first 12 seconds. So I was at a high-level university graduation, not ours, the other day, and the interim president takes the podium. I should have timed it. I think it was a minute and a half. A minute and a half, He can't find his notes. He can't find his page. He's lost in the thing. There's silence. There's excuse me. There's you just looked across thousands of people. They checked out. They checked out. All he had to do was walk up to that podium. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've been waiting for all year. In a moment, I want you to put your hands together and look at these graduates, and with your loudest voice and your biggest applause, let them know how proud we are of them at this wonderful graduation ceremony of 2025. First 12 seconds. It's everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes, I do, because in the YouTube world, the first 3 seconds.
Ooh, 3 seconds.
3 seconds are everything. And it buys you time, because if you win the first 3, you get 8.
Got
If
it.
you win the first 8, you get 30.
Come on.
If you win the first 30, it's really relatively short. You win the first minute and a half. If you get the first minute and a half
Mm-hmm.
of somebody's attention on a video, the likelihood of them watching the remainder is nearly exponential. It's huge.
Does it work to say, stop scrolling right now and listen to what I have to... Does that work?
Any sort of hook, I would say the reason, it just give you a little bit of the sauce, the reason that we get in so quickly to questions is because it's different.
Right on.
Is because that's the hook that my audience cares about.
Why wait for the meat? Serve it
Why
up
wait for the
first.
meat?
Yeah, eat dessert first.
Because, to be fair, people don't. So a lot of people, more of the world doesn't know who I am than do. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
There's billions of people in
So
this.
they know what you have to offer.
Not nobody. My audience doesn't know you yet.
Right.
So if we go into a whole list of your accolades and why you should be here,
Right.
that's authority for sure.
Right.
But we can show them
There you go.
in the first
I
30
like that.
seconds and go,
I like that.
we might be dealing with
Yeah.
It's really tempting, though, because you want to say, hey, you need to listen. Hey, listen. I was talking with our common friend, Josh, had him on the podcast a while back, and he said, oh, goodness. He said, it's so hard not to start with that, not to start with all of the,
Mm-hmm.
The authority piece.
I gotcha.
But to you say, you know what I mean? He just needed to cover that minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I believe that's second nature to you.
Wow.
And these are things that I'm so glad that you're delivering on this podcast, so that, one, I can learn some more
Mm-hmm.
about communication and leadership, but the folks who are stuck in word salads and not knowing how to craft it out, not knowing, like, what you're bringing to the table is there's an identity piece. Like, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. It starts with the nugget, the gift, the gem that God has made in you. And out of this relationship of Him honing, refining, showing up consistently the same, and delivering that this is the real of who I am, and getting to the meat and taters, as we would say down here in Texas,
That's good.
quickly to hook
good.
people's attention. That would be my
I think
kind
it's
of,
fair.
is that fair?
That is.
What am I missing in that?
No. I think that's so fair. And I think I would say to that millennial, a Gen Z person, I don't like fake it till you make. I don't really like that phrase so much, but that phrase that I did use, be comfortable with the tension.
Yes.
I would say embrace that. You're going to feel that tension of, like, I don't feel good at this. I don't feel confident at this. That doesn't matter, right? 12 seconds. Bring it, And I feel like I need to add this, and you can edit it out if it's blasphemous.
Bring it.
When I was in my 30s, I had a guy say, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Oh, John Maxwell and the Bible." It just, and so, "Were you reading any novels?" I'm like, "You mean like fiction?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like,
I had time for that.
I don't have time for that. I'm an important person. I've got things to do, people to lead. No. And he was unimpressed. He said, "Well, if you want to be a better preacher, you need to be a better storyteller. And if you want to be a better storyteller, you better read stories." How do you say no to that?
No.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So
Proper
so
response.
next time I saw him, I'm like, "Hey, here's the fiction books I have read, and this is on my bucket list. And so from that day forward, a couple of decades ago, I have routinely read. I'm a voracious reader, so I'll read leadership, I'll read spiritual growth things.
Yeah.
But I got my cotton candy. I got my John Grisham. I got my Baldacci. Most recently, I got my Pierce Brown. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And it proves your vocabulary. It helps you tell a story. That's all you're doing. You already, to your business owner, you've already got the craft.
Yeah.
You've already got the ability. You just need to be able to tell a story.
Yeah.
Why you? Why now?
That's amazing. Yeah, because that's really what it is. I remember there was a teacher here in town. Not that she's not. I just have lost connection. I don't know where she is. But her name was Mrs. Walton. Did you ever come across her path?
I know of her. Never taught by her or anything like that.
We've had, just a side note, and aside, if you will, we've had some of the best English teachers come through Stephenville.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I didn't value them at the time.
Of course.
But she assigned reading in the summer. In the summer.
Who reads in the summer?
Who reads in the summer? So I go into her class. I have not obviously read the books. I've skimmed them because I'm just not a voracious reader at the time. But I've done enough to get into the class. I can take some of the tests. And she sniffs me out like this. She knows there's something up with you. You hadn't read the whole thing, you know. I'm sure I wasn't her first student to come along faking it till I made it, kind of a deal. But she would sing. Had such a unique and I think it would be called quirky these days personality. She would dance and sing around the classroom, and she would drive these things in. And I remember some of the structure of books and communication, and they're in song in my mind. So she'd be jumping around, narrative hook, catches the reader's attention. It was just, I remember those things. But who were some folks who really had an impact on your life? And you go, that is what I want to do. That I want to communicate like them. I want to lead like them. The coach for sure.
Yeah, I was drawing a blank until you broadened it some, right? And I remember Coach Pison for sure, and he had a way of communicating expectation that made you want to hit the mark. I think, man, I'm sorry, but you've got me on the coach thing. And I know that's such a Texas boy kind of a thing, you know.
I think it's unique.
Yeah, Coach Scarborough. We were O linemen, and all but one of us were in National Honor Society.
You didn't. Just pause for a second. You didn't go to school in the 60s or something. The 50s and 60s. How in the world were you an O lineman?
Senior year, 206 left tackle. Come on, you got to be quick. You got to move your body. You got to put your body on the line sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'd cut a guy. He'd get so mad, he'd just lay on me. I'd be like, really? Get off me, And, but Coach Scarborough, the pulling and the doing was kind of ahead of its time in the mid 80s. But we were smart young men, and we called ourselves the Nasty Five, right? We even had a name, but he would communicate. Melvin Loesch, former Marine, defensive line coach, would get in your grill and just, almost make you afraid, because he would be so dogmatic. Different communicators. I think being a father helped me.
Yeah.
I know I'm not answering your question directly, but anybody who has more than one child, or if you have siblings, man, mom communicates differently with each kid because they respond differently. My firstborn, God love her. You could tell her how disappointed she was. She'd kind of just shrug her shoulders, do it again until I know it's not kosher anymore, but beat her behind with a wooden spoon. Like, honey, this ain't going to be this way, Oldest son, middle child, I'm so disappointed in you.
That's it.
Broken. Like, I'll do better. I know I can, and just learning how each one would need to be communicated to. I learned a lot through that. And in business, not every employee is wired the same. Some of them don't value a dollar bonus. Some of them are like, man, you've done so great.
Yeah.
I'm paying you for the rest of the day, but take off. Do what you want. And they're like, oh, I'm getting paid to do what I want to do for the rest of the day. You know, it just, they're giving time back means the world to them. I think maybe we pigeonhole the 5 love languages into only romantic relationships.
Well, now.
And we need to think about them in our colleagues and our employees, right? Everybody's wired differently. Some of them, an attaboy doesn't mean a thing. You're wasting your breath. Say, I just want to tell you how much you mean to this organization, what a good job you're doing, and how proud I am of you.
That it's just names of people's faces are popping in, and I won't go into detail, but we have a shared relationship in a math professor friend of ours, and she works at a place where she's starving for an attaboy. She could care less about the money that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
She'll complain about it from time to time, but she wants to hear, hey, listen, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize you.
Come on.
And if they would say, I see you, she'd work for nothing for the rest of her days.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's interesting. I think you're onto something.
Yeah. And I think about the people that have motivated me. It's always somebody you respect. If there's somebody good at their craft, but you don't respect them as a person,
That's right.
They're not getting to your heart. But if you respect them, oh man. And so maybe that goes back to that consistency word, being somebody that folks can look up to,
yes,
that
sir.
they can respect.
That's it harkens back to graduated all my schooling and stuff, and I was thinking, well, I want to go back. I want to learn. I felt like there's just more to be. I'm a big learner. I want to learn things.
Yeah.
I'm after it all, so I can't stop learning. I get to the end of one rabbit hole, and I want to find out where the next one goes. And I was talking to my father-in-law, and I said, I think I need to go back to school or something. And he said, what are you doing? I told you the first time through. He said, if you're going after the sheepskin, if you're going out, you're going to miss it. He said, I'm going to pass on some advice that was given to me a long, long time ago. Major in the man. He said, find somebody of character. Find somebody that you respect. Find somebody, to your point, find somebody that you look up to that's got their life going in a direction that God's presence is on, then just study what they do, how they do it, and why they do it. What makes, what part of their identity pours out into that.
Good.
Major in the man, and you're not going to go wrong.
That's a good word.
That came to me whenever you're talking about, man, find somebody that you can respect, because I think that encapsulates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I know we are on a short time together because you are an insanely busy individual, but I want to ask you a question. Is there anything today that you wish I would have asked you that would have benefited my audience?
I know what it is.
What is it?
I know what it is. You've touched, I tell people I'm a cow guy wannabe, right? So Fridays is my cow day, right? You can find me putting out hay, putting out feed, mending fences, checking on calves. You talk about the different ways that I spend my time. I wish you would have asked, how can you have these different roles and attend to them well?
So, Pastor Ed, how can you have all of these different roles? Cowman, aspiring cattleman, professor at the university, involved in every council, board, program that I can think of that this city offers, pastor of a significant ministry in our city, part of the Ministerial Alliance, granddad,
Come on.
entrepreneur, husband. I mean, these are all out of sorts, and Charlie, how do you?
That is an outstanding question,
Thank you.
Jared. Thank you for bringing that
right there at the end.
Bringing that to me.
Yes, sir.
It is only possible by having an incredible support team. Only possible. It starts with my bride. We've been pastors. October will be 27 years.
Ooh.
I feel like we maybe started when we were 10 years old. I don't know. And all too well expectations of roles and things like that. And so through the years, your pastor's wife play the piano? No. You lead the women's ministry? No. You teach the adult Sunday school class? No. What is your ministry? And unashamedly, unabashedly, she'll point her finger at me. That man is my ministry. In NASCAR, the driver comes down that road and comes screeching to a halt, and the pit team just, that's what I have in my bride. And every aspect. So I could go on and on about that, but I won't. One woman pit crew put NASCAR guys to shame. And she don't have a superstar car to work with. She got an old broken down pickup truck that she's making sure the lug nuts are still tight on it.
It's a Bronco, please.
Thank you. Thank you. 71,
yes.
Seafoam Green.
Yes, sir.
And soon to be in a community near yours. Church. Becky's been on my team for 20 years. Kevin, our mutual friend, was on the team for 11 years. Mo Howard, before that, 10 years. You don't have a team that sticks around that long if they don't feel like they're growing and being valued and getting prepared for their next. And so that's valuable, but also got to hold them loosely, right? Because they're not meant for you forever. They're going on to the next level. So I think that's such an important thing. And I touch both those things like that because I would want a small business owner to realize, yes, I have to develop my team at the factory or at the coffee shop or at the business, but you also got to develop that team at home.
Yeah.
Right. And if I don't intentionally pour back into my bride, I'm not, it's a two-way street.
It is.
Right. And so it works because I value her and pour back into her. So at home and the business, and then those other things, having that selfless thing to where, hey, I'm in my friend's life to help them get to the next level. And I think that causes a beautiful tapestry.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. A beautiful reciprocity.
Hey, there you go.
Yes, sir.
I think about I was a choir boy and kid from junior high all the way through my senior year. And there's nothing quite as beautiful as four-part harmony. And when everybody hits their note and it comes out in one sound, it's amazing. It's probably better than a pulling guard, knocking down a linebacker for a running back to go.
Oh, yeah.
But the same idea is there. It takes a team.
Yeah.
And when that team comes together, man, we could do so much more than me. So
that is so good. Now I'm tempted because that's a perfect place to end our time together in this podcast. But I have one tradition.
Okay.
I'm setting up here in
all right.
brand new podcast. And it is where at the very end, I say to the guest, if I know them, the things that I probably wouldn't say in our daily relationship.
Oh my.
Yeah. So here it comes. I want to thank you and your wife, if I can get through it, for pioneering some pretty cool stuff and paving the way for pastors and leaders like myself. The sheer that your wife has done to say my ministries to him, Jesse has adopted that, like you said, unashamedly.
Yeah.
And that has been a beautiful thing. So whenever they come and they pressure and they say, it's almost like she has ground to stand up because you see it done. Beautiful. And in the same way, I say, thank you, sir. Thank you for blazing a trail. We rode together in a vehicle to Brownwood, Texas a long time ago. And I'm pretty sure I vomited my heart out on the way up in that windscreen somehow or another. And you listen to all of it. And over the years, you have pastored me well. You have mentored me well, and you have been an insanely good friend. So I want to say thank you for your impact upon my life, because it is whatever I have to give, I've given it out to the folks I get to do life with as well. So passing it on, my friend. Thank you for who you are and what you do. Love you.
Feelings mutual. Thank you, brother.
We're done here.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Come on. Woo.